Thank you for joining us for Best Practices with ArcGIS Basemaps. Today we're going to be talking about some of the different Basemap services that you can use, how to select the right service, and creating some custom styles, and looking at other things such as like places, languages, and worldviews. So let's go ahead and get into it. And before we get into the content, if you could please share your feedback in the app, that would be very much appreciated. It lets us know if you want to see this, talk again in the future or something similar. And yeah, it helps us improve. Awesome. Okay. So today we're going to be covering several different things. We're going to start with the Basemap fundamentals, so all about what is a basemap. And how to think about it. And then the next thing we're going to cover is the Basemap Styles service. So that is our vector tiles service. Then we're going to look at the vector tiles style editor. So that's for creating custom Basemap styles. Then we will look at our static Basemap tiles service. That is a new service. It is location platform specific, and it lets you create maps with rasterized tiles. And then we're going to look at the brand new static map service, which is currently in beta. And then we'll have a Q&A. Okay, so before we get into the meat of the presentation, we're going to introduce ourselves. So my name is Courtney Atto. I'm a developer advocate here at Esri. I've been with Esri for about 2.5 years now. Previously, I was a high school math and computer science teacher, and I made a career switch into tech. So now I'm still teaching, but I'm teaching the big kids, developers now.
Oh, I love that. And, my name is George. I'm a product engineer with Esri on the developer experience team. I primarily write the documentation on developers.arcgis.com, so stuff on basemaps, as well as our open source libraries and our location services. Awesome. So let's jump into it. All right. So let's start off by just talking about the fundamentals of a basemap, starting with what even is a basemap. So, this is a word you'll be hearing a lot today. In essence, a basemap is really just a map. It provides geographic and visual context for your applications, and it typically has a worldwide extent, meaning that you could get data for any place in the world from a basemap. And importantly, it's also styled. So you could see here I have the ArcGIS community basemap. It's zoomed all the way out, so it's just the worldwide extent. But of course, you can get several different styles that we'll be showing today. So there's like ArcGIS charted territory, ArcGIS light gray, and of course, satellite imagery is also considered a basemap. It's kind of a foundational component of your app. What are some typical aspects of a basemap? They always include geographic features. They show continents and land masses. They show oceans. They typically also include political boundaries. So most of our basemaps include country, cities, state designations. They'll include roads and street networks, as well as a lot of them include building footprints. So you could see in the top right there, you can see it even includes the convention center that we're in right now. Some of our basemaps also include satellite imagery or topography in the form of a hillshade layer. So there's really a wide variety of data available, and sometimes they also include stuff like places of interest or restaurants. So regardless of the basemap you choose, it really forms the foundation of your custom application. So as a developer, you're probably going to be building custom applications, perhaps using our Maps SDKs. You're going to be wanting to load your own data on top of it, or load your own location services, make your own service requests. And the basemap is kind of the foundational. I kind of think of it as like the blank canvas that you can build your app on top of. You can load anything you want on top of them, but it's super important to have a solid understanding, of how the foundation works. So I just included a few screenshots here of some custom apps that we've created using Basemap. So this is a data visualization app for the city of San Francisco. I believe it uses ArcGIS Human Geography. And on top of that, it's showing census blocks that have the average home value aggregated for those areas. So just a really simple visualization, but it's built on top of a basemap and it's pretty effective.
And stylistically, I think it just makes the layer or the data pop.
You can see it's like a simple basemap to accentuate the data that we're presenting. Some other basemap selections, This is a routing app that we built. It uses ArcGIS navigation, which might be appropriate for your navigation apps. And then on top of that, we're calling the routing service to calculate directions and turn-by-turn street directions between locations. And then
So that's the ArcGIS navigation?
Yep, this is ArcGIS navigation.
Yeah, so about that style a little bit. I mean, it gives the details for definitely a good base map for an application that is used for routing specifically, because it gives, more of those details about like the road names. Those kind of details that may not necessarily be in other base maps always. So.
It highlights like major roads and stuff as well.
Major roads,
street symbols and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So finally, just a simple place search app. So this is an app that searches for places of interest and returns details about them. It's using calcite components to display stuff like the address, the contact information, like this is like a farmer's market in Venice Beach. And it's built on top of ArcGIS Streets, which is another choice for this kind of place search or navigation application. So definitely a whole bunch of styles available. We'll look at a bunch more. But yeah, I mean, how do you load a basemap into your application? So ArcGIS offers several different basemap services. So there's the ArcGIS Basemap Style service, and that's the service that it's probably the most important to be familiar with. It's the one that all of our Maps SDKs use. We also offer the Static Basemap Tile service, as well as a new service in beta called the Static Map service. So all of these services can be used to request maps and basemap tiles, and we're going to be talking about all three of them in pretty good detail. So as for how to access the services, it's kind of the same format for all three. You should pick the service you like. Typically, that's going to be the Basemap Style service. You should pick a style that you want to use. And the way the service works is they have what's called style enumerations or style codes. So this is a unique identifier associated with the style, and you add that into the URL of your service request. So you can see in our GET request here to the Basemap Styles API, at the end of it, we include /ArcGIS/navigation. And that's telling the service that we're making a request to the ArcGIS navigation basemap. In addition to the style, you can choose to add some optional parameters. You'll be able to customize stuff like the language or the political worldview. We'll look at those in more detail. But finally, and importantly, all the requests to the Basemap Style service need to include an access token. And so this is to associate the request with your account. It's to authorize the request and meter the usage of it. So to get an access token, you can create an API key that's associated with your account, or you can implement user authentication, sign in with ArcGIS kind of model. And in terms of the accounts that have access to these services, you're going to need an ArcGIS online account or an ArcGIS location platform account. Right. Before we look in detail at the services, let's talk about how basemap tile data is actually served. So what are you actually going to be getting back from the service when you make a request? Basemaps use what's called tiled data, and these are most commonly vector tiles nowadays, but the map tiles used to be really common as well. And so instead of returning all the data for the entire world at once at all zoom levels, they parcel the data off into tiles and return the tiles that you're looking at currently. So, if you're just looking at Melbourne in Australia, then you'll just be getting tiles for that area and the specific zoom level you're at. So tiles are loaded dynamically as your app is panning and zooming around the world. And that saves on requests and in data transfer rates. So there's two common formats. Starting with map tiles, these are also known as raster tiles or image tiles. They're pretty much just PNGs at the end of the day. And it's an image that captures a section of the world at a specific zoom level. So you can see we have a tile of like the West Coast. Palm Springs is included if you look really closely, but it's a pretty high zoom level. And this is all the information this tile contains. So, when you zoom in, you'll be requesting a new tile for the new zoom level. And this method of using PNG images is really the traditional way that basemaps have been served. I'd consider it no longer the best practice. We have a new format called vector tiles. Well, it's not really new anymore, but map tiles are still very useful, and they're still required in some use cases, say if your app doesn't support vector tile.
The thing sorry, I just want to add a little something. The thing you said about the like zoom level, so the zoom levels do have different like levels of detail specifically tied to them for that base map, right? So as you zoom in, you'll see more information, and it's different for each base map as well. And then base map, there's a range of base map levels that you can use. I believe that's library dependent almost, right? Or,
Yeah, it probably depends on the library you're using.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say for most libraries, you're going to want to use vector tiles. And this is the format that our Basemap style service serves the data as. So instead of requesting data as a tiled image, you request it as a file format called PBF. And it's a little harder to visualize. So, it's just a kind of arcane file that our Maps SDKs are able to process, but it's harder to get a clean image of it. But it works pretty much exactly the same as a map tile. You're requesting a PBF tile that represents one specific geographic extent, with a certain level of detail and zoom level, like Courtney mentioned. And the big advantage of these is that the file sizes are a lot smaller than PNG images, meaning it's more efficient. It's going to be typically faster, especially if you have a slow network, to use vector tiles instead. And it supports a lot of pretty awesome like feature querying operations as well. So yeah, they're pretty performant. These were defined originally in 2014, so they're about 11 years old now. They were defined in the vector tile spec by Mapbox. It's an open standard that we follow at Esri. So yeah, it's pretty awesome, and it means there's wide support for it across all sorts of platforms. So yeah, before we talk about the services in detail, I just kind of wanted to show a short demo to visualize how these tiles are requested, to give you guys a better idea of how many requests are actually getting made when you are making a map. So let's jump out of here and just look at some. These are going to be map tiles because they're easier to visualize. But yeah, so I have how hard is it to see? Yeah, I have a leaflet app here that's loading a base map. The style of this base map is ArcGIS navigation-night for kind of a dark view. And you can see right now we're at the minimum zoom level of the app. It's like a zoom level of 1, I think. And right now, this map is just a single tile. It's a single image that contains the entire map, because we're at such a high level of detail that, it just contains that. So you can see in the network tab, we can track the tiles that are getting requested by the app. And it's just requesting one image. And if we preview the response, it's just that. But if we zoomed in to the next level of detail, then we're actually going to be requesting more than one tile. So these are all new images that just got loaded onto the screen, and there's going to be 4 of them. And in this app, you can actually kind of see these like white lines, and these are the gaps between the tiles. I just highlighted them here to make them visible for easy visualization. But you can see, in the network tab here now, we're requesting 4 different tiles for different sections of the world. And this exact thing is going to keep happening as we zoom in. So zoomed in again, new tiles, new boundaries, and we can keep doing that, all the way in. So each one of these images, each one of these borders is going to be a separate network request. If you have ArcGIS location platform, then your pricing is based off of how many tiles you consume. So that's good to keep in mind. And basically we have tiles for all sorts of like all the zoom levels up to like 26 or something. And as we zoom in more and more, obviously we're going to see more details. We'll see street names, places, Palm Springs Airport, until we get all the way in to the convention center. So nice. Just a pretty simple demo, but it's kind of what all of our base maps are like. And this was using the static basemap tile service, which we'll talk about more later. Let's go back into the slides. Cool. So before static tiles, let's talk about the standard ArcGIS basemap style service. So this style service is, I'd say, the service that you'll be using most often. It serves data as vector tiles. I was just showing static to help visualize the tile requests, but vector tile is really the format you're going to want to use most of the time. It's compatible with all of the ArcGIS Maps SDKs as well as open source libraries. And this is actually what our SDKs use by default. So if you're using like the JavaScript SDK, for example, you don't have to specify what service you're using. It's just going to be using this one. It serves data either as Mapbox style JSON or as the web map. And you can see the service URL there. But if you're using a Maps SDK, you won't need to even know the URL. So there's all sorts of styles available. I think in terms of ArcGIS basemap styles, we have over 40. There's also OpenStreetMap styles offered. These, I think there's like a dozen or so, but they're actually in mature support right now. We will be adding a new basemap from Overture Maps called the ArcGIS Open Basemap. I think that was shown at plenary this year, so that's something to look forward to. And then the service also supports custom basemap styles created with what's called the Vector Tile Style Editor, or the VTSE. So we'll be showing a demo of that right after this. And in general, the way that you request a style is by specifying a style enumeration. So that it's usually /ArcGIS/something. You can see they're all listed on our developer documentation in the REST API. There's ArcGIS navigation, navigation night, streets, outdoor, all sorts of stuff. So really just a ton of different options.
I'll add on that each one of these styles has their own item page in ArcGIS that gives you a lot more detail about the style, like the data providers, the attribution, terms of use, and all of that too.
Totally. Yeah, they're all documented really thoroughly.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're curious about data sources and stuff, you can check out the doc for that. So yeah, in addition to styles, the service also offers several different additional parameters that you can use to customize your map. So starting with language, there's a language localization feature that allows you to request the entire map in whatever language you want, really. Do you know how many languages are available? It's like 20 to 30 at least. There's like...
Yeah. In fact, I can look that up.
Yeah, why don't you check? Yeah. This screenshot is in Thai, but Chinese, French, Swedish, like pretty much all major languages are supported. And to set that, via a URL request, you just say language equals, and then one of the codes that's listed in the REST documentation. Yeah, we have a link to it on the slides here. There's also a localized language feature where you can have the language be set to whatever the language of the country is. So when you're zoomed into America, it would show English, but France, it would show French, etc.
It is 39 languages.
39 languages.
And then the global and local, yeah, plus those. So 41 total options.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. All right, so in addition to language, there's also a worldview parameter. And this allows you to adjust the boundaries of your map, the political boundaries, to kind of accommodate for boundary disputes. So obviously not all countries recognize the same international borders, and we try to be accommodating to whatever region you're in. We actually just added a new United States of America option a week or two ago to accommodate for the Gulf of America rename. So that is, yeah, if that's a feature you're interested in, it's now available.
Yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different worldviews that we have in the style service.
Yep. So another parameter that might be of interest is the places of interest. So this allows you to display places on your base map. So this includes any kind of POIs from restaurants, public parks. I just included a screenshot of like Koreatown in LA. You can see it showing like the Consulate General for Indonesia. It's showing hotels. It's showing retail stores and restaurants, of course. And this data is all sourced from the ArcGIS Places service. When you use the places parameter, you're also able to obtain a unique place identifier for each place. And you can use that place ID to make follow-up requests to the places service to get more information about them. So really useful if you're building a detailed places app, but also good if you just want to add more geographic context to your map. Maybe you see other businesses nearby.
Yeah, nice.
Awesome. So I'm going to pass it off to Courtney, who's going to demo those features.
Okay, let's do it. Let's see here. Okay. So what I've done is I've built an application using the ArcGIS Maps SDK for JavaScript, which does include using our native web components, or map components, yes. In the top right corner here, you will see that there is a control panel with 4 different drop-down options. So we've got the basemap style, we've got the basemap language, worldview, and places. So let's go ahead and just try a few of these out. So let's change the style to something. Maybe let's try ArcGIS navigation. All right, looks good. Or maybe try ArcGIS topographic. Yeah, we have tons of different styles. So then we have some fun ones too. When you go to our documentation, you'll see that they are categorized in different ways. I believe one of the categories is like creative. So those are some fun ones, like colored pencil. kind of cool. All right, I'm going to take it back to a more reasonable one, so we'll use navigation. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is change the Basemap language. So let's try something that's going to be a dramatic change. So we're going to try Chinese. There you go. All the labels have turned into Chinese. Very nice. And then just to show you how the local one works, this should then turn really into English here since we're zoomed in towards the United States. So it goes back to that. The next thing I'll show is the worldview option here. So we've got all these different worldviews. I actually showed this yesterday in plenary. So we do have, again, that United States worldview, and you see the updated Basemap label names. And then we do have the Basemap places option. So you will have to zoom into a level of 16-ish or so. Here we go. There we go. To see the Basemap places. Like George was just explaining, they are embedded within the Basemap and they do contain the IDs. So if you were to perform, say, a hit test on this, you could then attach the place's actual service to it, use that ID that's embedded within the Basemap to then get all of those details back about the place. You can request specific details if you want. I chose the all option, but you can also choose only to show places that have attributes to them. So that's the attributed places. Or of course you could choose none. Yeah. Let's look at a little bit of code for this application. So the nice thing about the way that I designed this application was I actually used the Basemap styles service self endpoint. And that makes it really nice for keeping our application up to date. So the self endpoint, I'll zoom in a little bit more. There you go. So basically the self endpoint just contains all of the information about the service. So it contains all of the different styles, all of the languages, everything I just showed. And if there's any kind of update made to the service, because I'm calling the self endpoint to populate all of these options, it will automatically be updated. So I don't have to actually, go in and update it myself. So that's nice. All right. And then, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. We're just making the request here. And then I've populated all of once I get back the response, I populate it with all of the data that's given back to me. Okay, now let's do a little bit of exploring with the vector tile style editor. Okay, how many of us have used this? Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a pretty fun tool to use. It allows you to do lots of fun things. So let's talk a bit about that. So the ArcGIS Vector Tile Style Editor, or VTSE for short, delivers vector tiles on the fly, enabling flexible and responsive mapping experiences. So they are high performant, or they're rendered high performancely. So essentially meaning emphasis really is its ability to quickly render maps, ensuring smooth interactions, even with complex data sets. And they are part of the ArcGIS platform. So it really does make it easy to integrate seamlessly within your applications. All right. And like I just said, seamless integration. Now you are able to use this with location platform or online. They are scalable and customizable, meaning it's designed to handle large volumes of data. It allows for tailored map styles to meet your specific needs. So I always use the example of if you want to create a base map that might match your business's colors, you could do that. All right, cool. And then we've got real-time styling as well. So they can be updated on the fly, which is nice. So you've got that dynamic visualizations, very adaptable and can change to whatever you need. And it's optimized for all devices.
Oh, and one more note.
Yep.
We're only showing the VTSE for base map styles today, but you can actually use it for any kind of vector tile data. So if you baked vector tiles out of your feature layer, for example, you could use the VTSE to apply a style to it as well. So it's pretty functional. It can do a lot.
Nice. All right. So the URL for this is vtse.arcgis.com. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that, and we're going to create a custom little base map together. And didn't realize I wasn't signed in. There we go. Cool. Okay, so when you open up the VTSE after you've logged in, you can see all of your custom styles and, like George mentioned, your any other vector layers that you have here. So I've created some fun ones over time. Let me go back to the first page actually here. I've got this chocolate mint base map style. I made it because it was for chocolate mint day. It was fun. I do silly little things like that. We've got this Valentine's one over there, you know, just you can play around with it, have fun. So, all right, let's look at how you do this. Okay, so I'm going to choose, let's go with a navigation one. Let's try this one. Okay. So as you saw there was a list of all the different styles that you could choose from. So I forget how many we have, actually. Several. Probably like, at least 30 or 40?
There's 40 ArcGIS, and then
That's
there's a dozen or so OpenStreetMap ones. And all of them are supported through this tool. So
perfect. Yep, they're all supported. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is just generally the quick edit options here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. All right, so when you open up the VTSE and click New Style, you see generally these overview options. You've got land, water, roads, boundaries, buildings, nature. Then you can recolor the icons and patterns, the label colors, and the label contrast. So lots of different options for just more of a general change to your map right away. So if I want to change the watercolor of all the water, so not like just oceans or lakes or whatever it may be, I can just click a different color here. Or I could, of course, type in a hex color, and there you go. Right away, it changes. Okay. So the next option I want to do after quick edit is edit layer styles. All right. So I'm going to zoom into where we're at. All right. So we've got the convention center, which if I zoom in a little bit more, we can see it. Here it is. All right, right there, and then there's the Renaissance Hotel. So as I'm hovering over different parts of the map, we can see in the bottom left-hand corner over here, it actually tells you the name of that specific feature of the base map. So for instance, I'm hovering over this right now, and it's saying the convention center is OSM building/fill. So if I wanted to specifically change only the OSM building/fill, I can just click on it, and then I'm able to style it in such a way at a very high detail. So I have the option to change like what the building looks like at a specific zoom level. So right here, these are what it's set to right now. I've got 16 at this color, 18 at this color. I could add another stop if I wanted it to be, even more refined. Let's say I didn't want the color to change at all at a zoom level. I could just use a single value. Same thing with the outline color of it. You could change the pattern of it if you wanted to. The opacity. Yeah, so there's lots of different things you can do with this custom styling here. All right, on to the next tab. All right, so the next thing you can do is edit by color. So if there's one specific color on your map that you want to change, you can just click that color and say, hey, anywhere where this color exists in my base map, let's change it to this color. And it actually does tell you all the specific layers that are utilizing that color at that point too. So let's say you want to change that color of everything except for the ocean large scale, then you could do that. All right. Next one, edit icons and patterns. This one is fun. You can actually change all the different icons that are on your base map. So for instance, I could change this icon for the Renaissance Hotel. But before you're able to do that, it does say you must save this style before you can edit icons and patterns. So I would need to save it before actually changing the icon there. And then the last thing here is we've got the JSON. And so this JSON is really long. As you can see, it's actually already zoomed into the OSM building fill. That's actually what I clicked on earlier at the convention center. So that's kind of a nice way to identify exactly what you want within the JSON right away, since it is such a large file. But also, since you have the ability to edit the JSON or even really just access it, you can use it anywhere you want. So it's kind of nice. But yeah, so you can change it directly in here. Let's say I change the fill color to something. Maybe I'll just change it to something dramatic, like red. Once I click the update button, it automatically changes. All right. And then finally, once you're done with your custom style, you can save it. And after you save it, you are then given an ID that will show up in the URL. There it is. And you can take this ID and use it within your different mapping applications, and it will show up as your base map. Cool. Do you have anything to add?
No, it looks great.
Awesome. So yeah, the vector tile style editor, pretty powerful, allows you to do so many different things. I didn't mention it, but you can also change, font styles, font sizes, basically, if you can imagine changing it, you can probably do it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to static basemap tiles service. All right, so this service, like I mentioned earlier, it's brand new out of beta. It is location platform specific, and yeah, it offers a rasterized form of our vector tiles. So we've been told that some people, or some of you guys, majority of you all love our vector tiles. So a lot of you have asked for the rasterized form of these for whatever reason it may be. So that's exactly what we've done here, is we've actually served these as PNGs, or rasterized tiles. So these are always up to date, and it does also have a self endpoint, just like the Basemap style service that I showed a minute ago. And yeah, it does support most of the same styles as the Basemap style service. There are some limitations there. It can be used with the Maps SDKs, open source libraries. One thing to note is there is no satellite imagery within this style service. And there are some limitations. There are only a certain number of languages that are supported, so not nearly as many as our vector service. And there currently are no worldviews supported for the static basemap tiles. Okay, when would you use this? We've got some different ideal situations. So if you are using a lightweight, performant application if you have applications that don't have a vector tile rendering engine, that would be a really good use case. If you have maybe an older device that might have like memory or processing issues, and then sometimes maybe it's just what you want to use because potentially you have this complex rendering stack already, and you don't really want to add in another rendering engine like vector tiles. So different situations you potentially might want to use them in. All right, so I have two really quick demos just to show a little bit about this. So the first one is directly related to what George showed just a little bit ago. It's basically the same app, although I believe you were using Esri Leaflet earlier.
I was, yeah.
Okay. Oh, no, I am using Esri Leaflet. I forgot I did that. There it is. It's exactly the same application. Yes. So, what I'm using here is the Esri Leaflet library. And just recently, within the last couple of weeks, we have...
maybe last month,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. We released this static basemap tile layer plugin for Esri Leaflet. And so now we have the direct, capability to support these static tiles that we offer within the application. All right. And then this other really, really quick demo here, and this one's kind of fun. I used, anyone familiar with React Native? Okay. It's basically just a way to create cross-platform applications using JavaScript. React essentially, but JSX. So if you're a JavaScript developer, you could learn how to create this kind of application. But yeah, so it allows you to create cross-platform mobile apps, so for Android or iOS. But basically what I did is I just I took these static tiles, I figured out how to create a grid of them. And the way you do that is there's a conversion. It's just a little bit of math. Did a bit of research online. You can take the latitude and longitude and actually convert it to the tile values. So I'm going to go ahead and search for a location, and I'll show you some of those tile values there so you can get kind of an idea for that. So I'm just going to search for DC. This is using our ArcGIS geocoding service. Okay, and then I'm provided with a 2x3 grid of tiles from the searched area. I can zoom in, and I can change the style. And I can click on one of these, and then here's where the information is about the style, the zoom level, and then the tile values there. All right. So I believe that is it for me, and I'm turning it over to George.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So one last note on map tiles. Like Courtney mentioned, the static Basemap tile service doesn't support satellite imagery. Obviously, you can get satellite imagery through the standard Basemap style service. But if you're interested in accessing it just as a pure map service without any vector tile styling on top of it, then ArcGIS does offer a few other just standard map service URLs. So the one I would recommend is this URL here. It's ibasemaps-api.arcgis.com. It's not one of our official location services, but it's kind of just like an item hosted in ArcGIS Online that provides pretty up-to-date satellite imagery. Additionally, there's a few other map services like this out there. They're all listed in ArcGIS Living Atlas. So I would recommend, if you want to find additional options for your base maps, especially if you're looking for map services, check out Living Atlas and filter by the base maps tab. Stuff like imagery and satellite views of oceans and terrain is all in there as well. So another resource for y'all. Right. So the final service we're going to talk about today is the static maps service. And this is completely different from the static basemap tile service. I know they both have static in the name, but this is a new service that just released a couple weeks ago. It's currently in beta, and it actually does not serve basemap tiles. It has a slightly different functionality. It uses the basemap data to generate still images of a map. So instead of tile data, it is a single image that outputs as like a PNG or JPEG or WebP. And so the way that you might use the service is you make a request to it with a specific location and as well as like a zoom level, and it outputs just a picture of that level of that location. So you can see the image on the slide is actually one of the direct outputs of the static map service. I made a request for this like suburb area, and another parameter that you can add is a little marker point in the middle. So the location I specified is marked with that point, and then obviously it's providing geographic context for it. So this documentation is on our website under static maps. It's still in beta, so it's a little hard to find, but that's the URL. There's also there's a bit of limitation on styles and params. But despite still being in beta, there are a few different basemap styles available for this. So for the images that you create, there's a few different basemaps that you can use. Currently, ArcGIS Navigation, ArcGIS Streets, and ArcGIS Imagery are the supported styles. So there's a few other customization options for these as well. You can set the marker style for the center. So you can have a standard marker, you could have a circle or a square or an X, or just no marker at all. You can also set the image output format. You can generate PNGs or JPEGs or WebPs. You can also set the image dimensions. So you could make like a 200 by 200 image or any size you want for a specific location and zoom level. And currently that's really every parameter that this service supports. It's recently released and still being worked on, but it's really interesting, and it adds a really unique use case to the ArcGIS tech stack, totally different from your standard base maps. So when would you use a service like this instead of a normal base map? I'd say it's appropriate for any situation where you don't need an interactive map. So base maps and an interactive zoomable map is obviously amazing, But it does come with, it's more expensive, it takes more compute time, and you have to load the libraries. You're making a lot more network requests. So if there's any situation where you don't need that, if you can just have a map, like a static image, then this service is really great for generating those, like on the fly. So some examples that we thought of, maybe you have an e-commerce platform, you're buying something online. When the user checks out, you're going to be sending them an email receipt, and that receipt has their shipping address in it. So in that email, you could include an image of where the package is being shipped. So that's one example. You might also, if you have a lot of different sensors like weather data or security cameras, and you're trying to track observations from them, you could generate static images for each of the sensor locations. So when they're sending reports to you, it gives you that geographic context without having to build a whole JS Maps SDK application. Okay, and so I built out a demo for this. It's pretty lightweight, and we'll have to use our imagination a little bit. But yeah, so this is a React app to kind of mock up what it might look like if you're generating these email receipts. So let's check it out. All right, so in this demo, the left side of the screen is kind of like your online checkout experience. So maybe you're like Etsy or some online e-commerce. I'm like shopping online and I'm going to check out and I want to buy this awesome merch. Unfortunately, it's not official Esri merch. So, you'd see your standard checkout information, maybe the cost and delivery, your payment method. But then you could enter your delivery address here. And this is just going to do a geocode. So I want to ship it to the Palm Springs Convention Center. And when I click purchase, then obviously it's completing my order and I'm going to get an email receipt, which will show up on the right-hand side. So let's buy this. Yay, my order's on its way. Okay, cool. So you can see that it says delivering to, and it shows an image of the address we typed in. So this is the static map. It's got a marker on the location, and it's also showing me the address here. Maybe I want to ship it to Esri instead at 380 New York Street in Redlands. You can see that it is generating these images dynamically based off the address we put in. Yep. And so, yeah, you could see that obviously in the context of an email, you don't want a whole app. There's no space for a web application. The image is the perfect use case for that. Yeah, here's the full address.
Nice. There's actually another fun use case that I've come across. Here, I'll switch to my screen real quick.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't it cool? Yeah. So there's a website that I love to go to for different unique gifts. So I came across this one time. This is Uncommon Goods. They're actually using one of our competitors' mapping services. So, but the idea is there. Basically, you can search for a location, and then the user could find wherever they want specifically. And so then you think like, okay, a static map service would then send that image to then be actually physically printed, say on a coaster. So it's kind of fun. But yeah. All right. How much time do we got? We got a little time. I wonder if I should show the map viewer thing, a little bonus.
You want to?
I have a clip of it. I could just run that clip. Yeah. Okay. So I had a little extra something saved for if we had a little extra time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I won't worry about showing all the slides for it, but I'm sure majority of us are familiar with the map viewer, yes? The ArcGIS map viewer? Okay. So the map viewer has different options for blending and effects. So you can do this with just a base map. So I have this clip that I used. I actually did this presentation at like a meetup one time. Essentially, it's going to guide us through using couple different blend modes and then a couple different effects, or at least one different effect here. So I'll try to talk through it kind of as it plays.
And these are like additional styling options on top of the VTSE. So like maybe you're making a custom map, you use the VTSE first and then you bring it into this?
Yes, right, exactly. So essentially, like the VTSC style that I used earlier, or that I created earlier, that style, you could bring it in to whether you have location platform or online, into the map viewer. You can bring it in from your content. You'll see me doing that here with another one that I previously created. So that's going to happen first. I'll bring that in. I'm going to apply a blend mode to actually blend with world hillshade. So that's what's going to happen there. And that'll kind of you'll see the effect. It'll look like the hillshade's kind of popping through my custom base map layer. And then after that, I go into, I actually live in the Washington, D.C. area, and this is where I did this presentation. So you'll see me using a boundary layer of Washington, D.C. to kind of create this cutout effect. And with a little bit of blends and effects, you'll be able to see that it kind of looks like it's popping out from the actual base map. So I'll guide that through. Yeah. And in fact, I could probably just drag it here. So I add my custom base map there. That's what that is. All right. Then I'm adding the world hillshade. And then I did a switch just to make sure the world hillshade is below my custom. And then here's where I apply a blend mode. And right away, if you could see that there, let me go back, let me play that. So watch for the hillshade popping through. There you go. All right, so that was the multiply darken blend mode. All right, and then I go into finding the DC boundary layer. I bring that in. And then I say, all right, well, I've got some options I could do. I could just make it to where I only have my base map as Washington, D.C., and that would be applying the destination in compositing mode. Okay, but I undid that and decided, hey, let me try something different. So I went ahead and applied a grayscale to the map here. We still have D.C. On top of it. And then I'm applying let me back up real quick. So then what I want to do is essentially I'm trying to make it to where Washington, D.C. only has, didn't realize it kept going. There we go. I want Washington, D.C. to only have my custom layer that I created in VTSC along with that world hillshade coming through. And I want the rest of the map to have what's currently being shown here as that grayscale. So I really want it to look like the portion that's kind of cut out is the styled part, essentially. All right, so I apply that. And then I did the multiply again to just the DC portion. And then I have to group all of those together to make it to where DC is the only one to have my custom style. And there you go. So basically what happens here is the last step is to apply the destination atop compositing effect. And then now it looks like DC is really kind of popping out from the rest of the map there. So, and essentially this is really just still a base map. Right. What do you think?
It's awesome. Yeah, there's so many options available in the map viewer. So you can take your base maps and just your map presentations way further. And then if you wanted to load this into like a custom application, you can load the web map JSON into something like the JavaScript Maps SDK, and just get all of these styles directly in. So you don't have to worry about styling anything inline in your code. You can just handle it all in the map viewer and then load it in. Especially with the new map components, it's super easy to do that.
Exactly. Awesome. All right. So thank you guys for being here. Here's a set of resources that we have for you all. That QR code actually links to this presentation in PDF format, so you'll have access to all of the information and the links that we have provided. And I'll leave that up actually. Now we'll take time for questions. All the way in the back. Yeah, no worries.
So for the static map, which was the third one, you said that it had support for like very basic graphics, like pins and such. Is there any potential to be able to support like basic ArcGIS like analytical results, like buffer zones, or just like basic outputs like that?
Yeah. So the question was, the static map service currently supports basic stuff like markers on top of the map, but is there any plans to add support for data overlays like features or graphics? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, the service is still in beta. It's actually released very recently. I don't work with the team directly, so I can't say what their actual plans are. But I know that that is a request that they've gotten a lot to add like a graphics overlay option. So
I would imagine so.
yeah, hopefully they do that in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh yeah, also in the back.
Oh, the vector VTSE?
So you can assume that in your organization's mapping applications.
That is a good question. Okay, so using, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the question was, does it cost credits to use the VTSE? It really depends on your product type and your subscription type. So typically you'd be using the VTSE with an ArcGIS online or ArcGIS location platform account. And I believe that Basemap services in general are all included as part of ArcGIS Online. So there should be no additional charge if you have an online to use the VTSE. Location platform, I'd have to double check. I think the usage is metered a little bit differently.
Yeah, I believe so. Mhm.
And so, but regardless, there's a pretty generous free tier, especially for base maps. So it shouldn't.
Yeah, so generally, yes.
Yeah, there should be
online
no
for sure.
cost, especially
Yeah.
for online. Yeah.
Yeah? A couple more? Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious, the parameter you showed for example, workspace, is that also possible to include that, or can you change those in the PPSE as well, or is
Good question.
for the
Yeah, the vector tile style editor, I'm not 100% sure on this question, but I don't believe that you can actually like change the text itself, if that's what you mean, or like change, say, boundary lines.
What I think you could do is, Courtney's right, you can't change it in the VTSE itself, but after you save your vector tile style as a basemap item, the basemap style service supports loading custom basemaps as part of the service URL. And so instead of using a standard enumeration like ArcGIS outdoors or navigation, instead of that, you just paste the item ID in, and then you should be able to customize it with the worldview parameter and the places parameter, just like what we showed in language and stuff. So
Yeah.
there is a way to make it work for sure. Map viewer doesn't support places and language right now, to my knowledge, but at least for places, I know it's not supported. I would have to
not
double check for
places,
language.
yeah.
Maybe
That's a
ask
good
the
question.
JavaScript or there's people in the expo that you could ask. I can help you find the right
Definitely.
person.
Yeah, we can help you. Yeah. Yes.
This is kind of like a base map design question. Typically, what we've done with like tile caching is like when you zoom in like really close, like 1 to 500, you see aerial imagery for our counting. And so I was just wondering if you guys have like personal ideas of like how we can still accomplish creating base maps where you have your vectors that are like, you know, when you're zoomed out, but then we switch to raster when you're really zoomed in.
Oh.
Because right now it seems like you can't combine them, so I understand correctly.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean, programmatically, I feel like that would be easy to do, just kind of switching which endpoint you're pointing to. Now, it depends on, say, you know, what mappings SDK or, you know, kind of library you're using.
Right now, it's like
Yeah.
designing a base map and for everyone just publishing it.
Oh.
Mhm.
So like now it's like you can't, it won't let you publish it with vector and raster.
Right.
It doesn't
I think it's possible
Okay.
because the VTSE, one of the features is to set the visible range for features and for map data. And so if you want the vector base map to show only at a really low zoom level and then turn off once you zoom in more, you could just use the VTSE to customize it so that all the styles disappear once you start zooming in. And then you'd probably need a separate data layer for your imagery, but you could group those together in the map viewer as like a single base map object. So it's definitely possible. It would just might take you a little bit of time to set it up. But.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I saw when you guys were using the
vector tile services, you guys are passing a token. Is that actually required? Because I put base maps in our apps all the time, and I'm not passing a token ever.
So, yeah, access token is required. Authentication is required for all of our Basemap services. Particularly the Basemap style service does require auth. I think it's going to depend on how you're using the Basemap service. So if you're using a Maps SDK and you don't include a token, it'll prompt you to sign in instead. And I mean, it depends on the service you're accessing. So, I mean, you might be accessing like some
Some of our older ones.
imagery or
get around
something.
it.
But if you want any of our vector tile styles, you're going to need to provide authentication. Yeah, it is required.
And then, so if you enable the places, do you need a location platform token? For that?
Yeah, places is location platform specific.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
You limit the area, not create a basement that is not the global line, but limit area that you want.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. I mean, you could just restrict the area that your app is allowed to view. Like if you're building a custom app, you could make it so you're not allowed to pan outside of DC or whatever city. But that'd be less of a Basemap problem and more of like using the Maps SDK to do it. They have parameters for that.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Again, please share your feedback and we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good day.